damage. I don't see any damage really. This particular work, but there's another work in the backyard which I'm going to walk us to in a second. I don't want this video to get too long. There's so much to talk about. I could really make a 5-hour video on this subject. Honestly, I could. And there's so many things in my mind right now that are spinning, and I want to tell you. There's so many things, but I just can't do it. But you can see there's some Breba on here too. And so, interesting, very interesting. This one that had some protection survived. The one that did not have protection, which I'm going to show you in a minute, it did poorly. Okay, this is champagne, and it did okay, but again, and some of the branches are dead. It was a younger tree. Younger trees are more susceptible. The thicker the wood, the more insulation to the pulpwood, and so the less likely they are to die or to receive any damage, or not as much damage, perhaps. So the thinner the wood is, the closer to the pulp the cold is, and the cold can penetrate the insulation of the wood. Wood is a great insulator. Look at log cabins, for instance. And you could put a log in a fire. You put one end in the fire and it could be on fire, and hold the other end, you don't feel anything. Wood is an incredible insulator. Never underestimate what a great insulator it is. That pulpwood down there, it relies on the thickness of the wood to protect it, okay, from the cold. And if you have sustained cold, or if you allow the wind chill or the winds, you know, it takes that cold down faster. And then in the daytime, which the warm temperatures of the sun are restorative, and they take away that real cold, you know, penetration. Well, you don't get that when you're out in the wind without coverings. And that's one of the reasons why, I think. Okay, we quickly come over here. And this is another of the LSU Tiger. And it did very well. There's a few dead branches here and there, not much. I wouldn't even worry about it. But I'm impressed with this tree. You remember that some of it survived out there in the wind. It survived quite nicely, some of the branches. But that's to be expected out there with no protection. But this had no protection. And it's not real close to the house, but the house served as a windbreak from the northwest winds, but not as much as if it was up against the warm bricks. But it survived. And this tree produces an abundance of very delicious figs. I like this variety very much. And of course its parent is Celeste. And this one is Alma. Alma took a beating out here. Some of the branches died back. Now here's a perfect example of the pulpwood being damaged. This is not ever going to do anything. And I'm just going to cut this off, this whole branch. You would think, oh, no, it made it, it's okay. Don't even bother. I can tell, you know. But some of these branches definitely did. Most of Alma did okay. Okay, and some of them died back. So I'll remove the ones that died back. There's that split in the wood I told you about. You see that? Can you see that? Look, I'll push it. Look at it. That's what happens when they get really cold. See? And there's that pulpwood, and see that white pulpwood in there I told you about? Look at it. Can you see it? When you see that split, cut that split away. Now here I can cut that one. This one looks like it's okay. This end of it looks like it's okay, and that's okay. But usually one side of that split is a goner. So you just remove it. I can show you more examples. It happened here one year. This is my multi-black, and I think I hit it with the tractor one time too. Okay, this is another little multi-black next to it. But it came from a different source. It might be multi-black, it might not be, I don't know. But that one I know is absolutely multi-black. And you can see some of the Breba survived, and some of the branches survived. Some did not survive, okay? But multi-black did pretty good out here on its own. I love multi-black too, and I will never ever give it up. So I believe I made an air layer of this, so I have another copy of it too, which I'll keep into perpetuity. Here you're going to see this split again. You can see it right there. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it. Maybe there's a split right there. That's not good. I have to figure out what side that's has to be right. It looks like both of them are dead. Both of these are dead on the split. Okay. So these are going to be cut away. But a couple of these branches survived. And so I guess it will be worth it to maintain this tree for another year. We'll see what happens. But I see splits. I do see split. There's another split right there. See it? Let me get out of it. Not make a shadow right there. See that split? Can you see that? That's a telltale sign that you've got serious problems. Even if you have leaves growing on some of the branches, try to figure out where to break it off and prune it off. Okay. Over here is, and I'm so happy, here is another Ronde Bordeaux, which has surprised me because earlier results showed that it's not quite, I didn't think it was quite as winter hardy as was thought. But now I'm starting to find out that once it gets going, once the wood becomes pretty thick, and you can see that this tree is getting pretty big, it held up very nicely. Of course, it benefited from the protection of the house, but it's not very close to the house, and there was no covering at all. All I did was tie it and pull the branches back so that they would be trained more in an upright position. I do that a lot because I don't like my branches sprawled out all over the place. It's hard to cut the grass around them. So I bunch them up like this, and then I let them grow for a little while, and then I'll take the rope off, and they'll be pretty much trained to grow upright. But this, I'm looking forward to so many figs. This produced, you will look at my videos from last year, it produced so many figs. And there was such an abundance. And there's going to be even more. There's going to be many, many more this year. And I'm very, very happy. And here's a Celeste tree that used to belong to my father. I'm going to move real quickly. You see it's making Celeste Tree figs. You can see that. It just did marvelously. It had a protection. But one of just this same variety out there in the field died without any wind protection. So again, it's very, very important to cover your figs if you want them to survive. And pretty much normal winter for here. Now, you know, a normal winter for New Jersey could go down to 5 for where I'm at. It could even go down to 2 or 3. But it only went to 10. We talked about that. But I would say that last year was an average winter. You know, pretty average. So I would say to be on the safe side, you have to cover. If you have favorite trees and you don't want to take a chance to lose them, then cover them, because it could have very easily gone down to 5 above, and 5 above might have killed this Ronde Bordeaux completely. It probably would have. But we won't know that until some other time and some other experiment. But this is a wonderful reference point to talk about. Okay? So that's that for these. Now there's just a few more in-ground trees that I have that I do want to discuss with you. And so just bear with me a moment, and we'll bounce around and go take a quick look at them, because you will remember that I did a video not long ago about Smith. Oh, lots of strawberries. I've been eating a lot of strawberries. I just love my strawberries. You know, something else I wanted to show you too. I don't know if I think I'll make a separate video. I did a video not too long ago about everyone has a greenhouse. That's the title of it, I believe. And this is my greenhouse this year. And these are my baby black Madeiras that I made a video about before. And I have several other varieties in there. And they've never been out of the house yet. And you can see these windows. The sun comes through, and they're just doing so lovely. But I just don't have time to go into that. But maybe I'll make another video, and we'll go over that. I'd like to show you how wonderful they're doing. They're going to come out. They're going to come out now, and I'm going to put them under the shade of a big tree. I talked about the Smith, and this is where the pulp would be. See the pulp? That's where the pulp wood is. See how different it is? This is the hardwood, and that's the pulp wood, for those of you who aren't familiar. See, here's another one. And that's what I tell you. When it gets damaged, it can get partially damaged, and you might get some budding, but forget about it. After a while, you learn how to gauge it. You know, and that's why I say a fig is a fig is a fig is a fig. Don't believe these outrageous claims that you hear about a fig tree being so, you know, oh, it's hardy to 0 all the time. No. Maybe it was in a microclimate. You know, there's a whole host of developmental variables that we could talk about all night long. Okay? There's so many variables that we could discuss. Where was the tree? Is it true? I mean, is it a little bit of a fib? Okay. Was it in a microclimate? Okay. Was it really that cold? I mean, we could go on and on and on about it. Was it truly that variety? But most varieties have limitations. A fig is a fig. And that's the reason why. The pulpwood. Apples don't have that. Other trees don't have that. A lot of trees don't have this. But a fig is limited because of that very, very vulnerable pulpwood. And I think it's because of the degree of moisture. I think that's the variant, But this is Smith. Okay, this was the mother tree of some of the little fig trees that I showed you in previous videos. I got a lot of cuttings from this. I still have some in the refrigerator. I'm going to put them in the ground now because I do love Smith so much. But this tree was in other videos. This was a wonderful tree. There's that splitting again. You see it? In the crotch of that tree. Can you see that? Okay, it's dead. I don't see anything coming out of the ground. And so I'm sad, but I have so many copies of this tree because I love it so. And you will see in the previous video, one of the previous Figbuster videos, is Smith winter hardy to 7B or not? This is 7A. It's not. Of course, there was no protection at all. But in 7B, there was no protection, but it survived perfectly in a much younger tree. I grew the tree last year just for that purpose. Here's Hardy Chicago. And this tree's been here several years. And even though it was mostly in the wind, it's Hardy Chicago, And it's not one of my favorite trees. I like some of the slate variants better, like Malta Black. But it's always there. It always produces. It's a good tasting fig. It's one that I give to people a lot of times when they want a fig tree, because I know they're probably not going to cover them. And if they're going to be growing along the house, they probably will survive. I tell them where to plant them. And it's just been around. It's just a reliable Mount Etna type. Here is the other O'Rourke. Now, O'Rourke survived. You saw it up against the house. But here you see there's major damage to it because it's out in the open and it's windswept. It's making a comeback, a very vigorous comeback. I'll let that grow. I'll cut out the dead wood. I'll probably cut this entire tree out. I don't like any of it, except for that new growth. Or maybe I'll just remove it because I have a copy of it. I think I will remove this one. Okay, here is a Adriatic Battaglia green. And I can, they're known to be a little bit less winter hardy, and this one died. I see nothing coming up from the roots, and the tree is dead. The dieback is extensive, and I would have expected this, but you will remember in 7B in my video, I have a wonderful Adriatic tree that came from my uncle's hometown near Taranto, Italy, and he brought it here 65 years ago or so. I've kept it in my family the whole time. It's one of my favorite. It has a tangy taste. I'll talk about it again some other time. I love that Adriatic fig, and it's doing so nicely there. And it wasn't covered, but it was near the porch. But I very seldom have trouble in 7B with certain varieties. Now, other varieties I've had, you can watch that video and it will tell you all about it. So these are the last now. There's a couple more, but I don't want to walk around anymore. Essentially, this is it. And now we've concluded part 2 of winter dieback. I hope that it's been a valuable walkthrough. I learn something every year myself, but believe me, I've been through this so many times in the past, for decades, really. None of this is really a surprise to me, okay? But I hope that you'll be able to take this information and be able to modify your approach to growing figs in your zone, especially and particularly if you're susceptible to the cold winter winds, as I am in 7A here in southern New Jersey. So with that, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your visits, every one of them. I intend to continue to make videos on a number of subjects. I intend to continue my Figbuster series. I'm sorry and I apologize for this lengthy video, but look, there's so much to cover, and honestly, I only covered maybe a third of it. There's so many things more that I wanted to talk to you about the winter malting and so much more, but I can't. So for practical reasons, we're going to bring this video to a close. Thanks for watching. Good day.